Rail Up, the future mobility podcast with innovators and leaders of the ecosystem. Presented by Sebastian Sperker.
Our guest today is Marleen van Kerkhof, a rail ambassador who, along with her companies, developing smart digital solutions to enhance the efficiency of rail construction work with a strong focus on safety. We will also discuss the significant challenge of limited capacity on the European rail network, her grand vision of the future of rail, and her decisions to leave the Hyperloop company to embark on a career in the rail industry. I'm delighted to have this passionate young lady with us today. Live from the Netherlands, welcome Marleen to Rail Up. Hi Marleen and welcome to Rail Up, the podcast. I start my podcast always with the same question. Marleen, are you more a leader or an innovator?
Hi, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you so much for having me. I would like to say that I'm more of a leader, but a leader in real innovation.
Okay, that's great. Our topic today is really important. An important one is all about temporary capacity restriction, or in short TCR, or in simple construction works in rail. And we do need fresh approaches for this big topic and innovative ideas. And that's the reason why Marleen is today with us. But this time I would like to start with our guest, Marleen. And in the pre-talks, I really felt that Marleen is truly passionate about the ecosystem of rail. She won the Hyperloop competition with her team. She won the Railway Award for Young Leaders last year. She has worked various companies in the railway industry and she's a rail ambassador. So Marleen, tell us more about your passion, about yourself and about the role or vocation as a rail ambassador.
Oh, wow, what an introduction. Thank you again, Sebastian. So I'm 31 years old. I live in the Netherlands. I have a background in systems engineering at the Delft University of Technology. I've always been passionate about politics and technology. And during my studies, we started the development of the Hyperloop. So indeed, we competed in the SpaceX Hyperloop path competition. I learned more about transport, about innovation, about the increase for demand in transport. And I really liked working on such a new innovative concept. I did that for about 3 years. But during these efforts, I also came to the realization that the transport emissions are crucial to increase the sustainability for our society. Looking at the average of all greenhouse gas emissions in Europe, about 26% are caused by transport movements. And of course, with the Hyperloop being such an amazing concept of being energy efficient, super fast, interoperable, there is a great potential in, combating climate change. But to me, it felt that it was going to take a very, very long time before you have a proper pan-European Hyperloop network. And that's why I made the shift from Hyperloop to rail, actually. And people thought that was quite an exciting move, actually. But I felt really good about it because looking at rail, you already have an extensive network in Europe. And the train is by far the most sustainable motorized mode of transport. So we just need to increase the efficiency of our rail network, of a European rail network, to enable more rail traffic and to contribute to, more sustainable transport.
But at this point, I would like just to mention that you are now the fourth guest in my podcast who has come in touch with Elon Musk, the one way or the other. And also the second one, as Matt also told, they're coming from a really big vision also down to really work on today's railway improvement. What's your job about, or what is a rail ambassador? Let's start with that.
That started with the European Year of Youth. And back then I was appointed as a rail ambassador. And this European team was brought to light to emphasize the important role of involving youth in building a more sustainable, more green and digital future. And rail plays a huge part in this. So as an ambassador, I started promoting the benefits of rail. I started to inspire young people with the green and innovative character of rail. Also, of course, to motivate them to also choose for a career in rail, because to me it's so much fun. And well, it started, like I said, during the European Year of Youth, and I continued being an ambassador also as the chair of the board of the Young Changemakers, the Jonge Veranderaars. That's a Dutch network for all young professionals in the mobility sector. Also, as a board member of Rail Cargo Information Netherlands, I'm still promoting the benefits of rail freight, and by going to schools, for example, by telling about my job in the industry, by giving presentations, all such things.
What is actually in the Netherlands the public perception of rail? Is it more like sexy, green, and important, or rather old style, slow, and the last resort to travel?
Well, we see definitely a shift going on. So when I started in the industry, that's almost 5 years ago. And like I said, making the shift from Hyperloop to rail, many people thought I'd gone mad. Why go from something as sexy as Hyperloop to the old-fashioned, male-dominated industry of the rail sector? But I have no regrets, nothing at all. And we see a shift going on because of some political commitments, with rail being the most green transport. So people are increasingly being aware of the benefits of rail. And many people, especially more young people, so I'm 31 years old, but especially younger people, they are very enthusiastic about rail. They are very willing to opt for rail as an alternative for short haul flights, for an alternative for road trips with your car. And slowly but surely, I feel we're getting rid of the image of being old-fashioned.
It's very much depending really on which distance you have to overcome for traveling. I think Hyperloop, or as you said, it might be like the best solution for long distance travel on the land side. Whereas like high-speed trains are for, I don't know, 200 to 300 kilometers and public transport just for the first last mile. So I think it is a combination of all the modes of transport. And I think our driver, and as I heard it from yourself, is actually, it's mobility, right? Mobility for cargo, mobility for passenger. And I think that's the passion, what I really hear out of your voice. But you said one keyword, which is quite to really to convince people to opt in for rail, and it's become more sexy. And you also mentioned we need the right infrastructure for doing that, right? And now coming actually to our topic, and I have the topic of our episode, and I have a really good quote from a CEO of an operator. He said, and I really liked it. So I feel like we won 7 Oscars when it comes to construction works in Europe. It's simple, everything, everywhere, all at once. Yeah? And if you display all the major construction works in Europe, you can get the impression that the whole railway network is a big construction site in Europe. Yeah? And if you just take a closer look at the rail freight corridors, you can also get the impression that these works are not well coordinated between the major European infrastructure managers. And of course, maintenance and construction works are essential for high quality network with high capacity. But the big question is if it's today approach the best one, and if we could do it better. And you're in the industry, so what is your take on the topic?
I just know that we can do better. And because, the topic are temporary capacity restrictions, TCRs. I'd like to refer to them as the negative capacity of our network versus commercial capacity for rail traffic. And it can concern a possession for track works, but it can also be a temporary restriction regarding the speed or the axle load. So I think it's very, very important to have a very reliable planning of the TCRs um, in order to be able to offer a reliable product to the customers. Because the impact of TCRs can be huge, and the number of TCRs is increasing steadily. Looking at the Netherlands, we have 7,000 kilometers of rail. Yearly, we have 10,000 of TCRs. And if we're going to
Sure, that's a
extrapolate
lot.
that, if we're going to extrapolate that to Europe with 200,000 kilometers, well, let's say that there are thousands of TCRs every day occurring in Europe. But then we see that there is, can I say, a lack of communication. We see that especially cross-border traffic is even more strongly affected by TCRs. So a careful planning of TCRs is needed, and we also need to improve the coordination of TCRs among countries.
Just also for the audience, I mean, there are, I would say, like two types of TCRs or construction works. I think there is the one part which is planned, which is maintenance, I think, and this referring quite a lot in this podcast. And there is, of course, the unexpected one, if there is a flood, if there is a weather condition, accidents.
Or failure on the infrastructure.
Exactly. So this you cannot plan. Maybe with better maintenance you can prevent it. But we are now more focusing on the planned ones rather than the unplanned ones.
Yeah, and looking at the planned ones, you also mentioned corridors. Well, within the 10T corridors, TCR coordination is organized 4 times a year, addressing TCRs 2 or 3 years ahead. But we also see that
in best case.
In best case, yeah. And well, Excel is sometimes still used for short-term TCR planning, but we see that infra managers, they all use different tools. So you would ideally want a single, capacity database for train paths and TCRs. And well, the other category you mentioned, especially when it comes to these unplanned TCRs, in case of failure on the infrastructure, for example, a lot of work is still performed manually. So I think there's room for improvement because we see many cases lately that, well, for example, the night train from Austria couldn't run because the carriages were stranded on the border of the Netherlands and Germany due to uncoordinated track work at Emmerich. And those are the stories that I want to prevent.
And the passenger would love if we can prevent that. In Europe, there are, as you already said, really, really a lot of construction works ongoing, and the coordination, it's not always the best thing, or the best way how it happens. When I talk to the experts, what was also mentioned very often about, even if it's planned, the infrastructure provider, in the best case, provides an alternative route. Mm-hmm. But even this route could have completely different parameters, right? I mean, if you go, for example, the main line electrified and then you suddenly derouted for a non-electrified a route, then you need a diesel engine which has a different power and you need to have one. So also the derouting, it's quite an important topic. What are your ideas to overcome these challenges, for example, of derouting?
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say about rerouting. More time and consequently more valuable rail capacity are required for track maintenance and for the upgrades of our infrastructure. And we see that track access plays a vital role in this. And this is not being standardized yet. And that results in lengthy preparations for, for example, failure repair and track maintenance. And that leads also to work being shifted from daytime to nighttime. And as a result, more than 50% of freight train path requests are modified. And that causes a high workload for the infrastructure managers and for the railway undertakings, for replanning, for rerouting, if possible.
One comment from my side, because you said it's sometimes like the change of a timetable. I was just recently listened to a panel discussion, and one managing director of a big railway company for passengers said, like, in the year 24, and they operating like hundreds of trains every day. In the year 24, they on just 16 days out of the year, they can run according to the normal timetable schedule.
Oh, wow.
And all the other days are just adapted sometimes quite heavily, that you have to use like buses in order to overcome construction works, or it's just modified by delays, uncertainty, etc. So I think the extent on the construction works and the impact of the timetable, and then of course of the quality for our customers or for the real customers, they are huge. Yeah, and I think this leads also to talk about now to the access of the infrastructure, what we would like to discuss now.
Yes, definitely. Because we see that it's increasingly important to limit the impact of TCRs for our customers, for the train and freight operating companies. And one way to do that is to standardize and to digitalize track access. So now we're talking about track worker safety. So I'd like to make the connection between rail capacity and track worker safety. Have you ever heard of a TCOT?
I should say yes, but no.
Okay, let me. A TCOT. That's a track circuit operating device. And right now, manual track circuit operating devices, they are commonly used for workplace protection during track maintenance. But, we see many frequent changes in the instructions. It requires extensive preparation times. It leads again to duplicated work and, a substantial time investment for both track workers and the infrastructure manager, especially in case of larger TCR combinations. And the installation of manual workplace protection devices, they consume a significant amount of time and real infrastructure capacity. So looking at a standard possession, before you can start working, about 20 or 30 minutes at start of the possession are required for placing these manual TCOTs. But again, if you're finished working, then you need to remove the TCOTs manually. And it means that for each possession, in the Netherlands, a possession takes standard 4 hours. About 60 minutes of rail infrastructure is either unavailable for transport or it cannot be utilized for maintenance purposes. So 25% of the possession is actually wasted.
That's basically like a part you put into the tracks in order to simulate that these tracks are closed or covered, and therefore like the workers can be sure that they can do the construction works in a safety environment. And to place these items on the right position, you need more or less like, let's say, half an hour, 1 hour to do it, to install it and to remove it otherwise. And this is basically quite time consuming. But you told me actually in the pre-talks, even like there are several construction works which are just done in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
or could be repaired. So basically, it's crazy that you said you need 2 hours to make the safety operation the first, and then to have just a 15 minutes work ongoing. So then the whole ratio, it's even more dramatic.
Yes, exactly. So we see that many activities on track can be performed in a very short period of time. For example, inspection works or even failure repair. But because it takes so long before you get to enter the track safely, a lot of these activities are moved to the night when less trains are running. But if you can...
Which makes actually sense from the one point of view.
Yeah, from... especially from the passengers' point of view.
Yep.
So that's why we have introduced a digital track access system. So what we have developed is called the ZKL 3000 RC system, and that's a remote control TCOT. And this digital track access system, it replaces traditional manual workplace protection devices. So it can be installed semi-permanently between the running rail. You can leave it there for many years. And when remotely activated using a mobile device, just your phone or an iPad, it simulates a train in a chosen section, turning the signal red and indeed halting upcoming traffic. So within seconds, track workers can safely access the track. We call them switch projects. They are managed in our European clouds, and they enable very rapid and secure infrastructure withdrawal. But we see that in our industry, generally, there is so much to standardize. We talk a lot about the digital transformation of rail. And I think one very effective way, to contribute to that is by standardizing the track into standard work zones. Because the track, it is already divided in several sections. And by first standardizing them, you get to digitalize it using our systems, and then you can automate it. And that's when real efficiency gains come in.
You are not only rail ambassador, you're also working for a company, and the company aim is exactly to improve, to enhance the capacity, or like basically to improve the whole process of the safety during the construction work. So can you just give us an idea of what is the name of your company, what's the company doing, and what's your job?
So our company is called Dual Inventive. Our headquarters is based in the Netherlands, and we also have our offices in the UK and in France. And our technology enables to work with standardized work zones for the safest and faster track access. And by this, we get to minimize the transition time between driving trains and executing maintenance. And that significantly reduces the impact of TCRs for train and freight operating companies and improves the reliability of TCR planning. And my job is being the international affairs manager. So I'm involved with, for example, policy developments affecting our industry. And a really good example of one of these developments is a new European regulation, which was presented last year, for capacity management in a single European railway area. Because the European Commission also sees that, the impact of TCRs, it should be limited to our customers. And it means that you want to move from manual, annual, and national capacity management to digital, flexible, and European capacity management. Yeah, and why do we need that? Because greater flexibility is desired, for example, for rail freight transport. Although capacity must be booked months in advance, goods often need to be shipped on short notice. And we see that rail freight's overall performance and production are unfortunately declining due to numerous infrastructure works across Europe, both in long and short term. So the infrastructure managers, they are going to get incentivized to limit the customer inconvenience when planning track works. And I think this is indeed great news. It asks them to reduce the TCRs in the operational timetable to the minimum, and the impact of the TCRs to the availability and to the reliability of train paths must also be reduced. And to incentivize capacity-friendly behavior, compensation for unused but claimed capacity will be paid.
Okay, that's a new thing, yeah?
Yeah, that's an interesting development, because I feel it myself that rail has such a great value to society. But now rail capacity will get a price tag across Europe. So now it's going to get interesting. So we need to effectively utilize like every minute on the rail tracks in Europe. Well, be it for running trains or for executing efficient maintenance to upgrade it.
And that's basically Europe-wide. I just read that they just proposed some nice KPIs actually, like how much of the timetable is basically with construction works, how long you need it, how many slow speed sections do you have, etc. Because like especially if we talk in the international freight traffic, all all the infrastructure providers should be aligned in a certain quality and process to do so, because there are indeed some infrastructure providers which are doing quite well in doing that, in planning, and there are also some doing not so well or very bad in other words. But you need the whole chain in order to be organized to really transport, like say, from the North Sea to the Black Sea, like high quality transportation. Yeah. So that's absolutely, I think, a very important thing that, or like a guideline, that it's more coordinated. And coming back to your company, because what you said, it's quite vital, I think, to the point. It's basically, if you reduces the number or the minutes of a construction works, you increase on the other end, like the capacity, of course. Yeah. And I think there are, for those who are also having some experience on the road, I mean, there is always the example like that you driving through a one-lane section on the highway, and then you see left a lot of things, but no one is working, no construction, and you just ask why it's closed, and there is a traffic jam and no one is working. So that may appears that it's not super utilized, the construction work at itself. And basically in the pre-discussion, you also said like your company is working exactly to reduces the time, and you mentioned the point of safety. And there Marleen just told me one keyword which I have known so far about how to place this safety, made it digital. I think it's a really good example, and would be great if you can share what the T-Codes, what is the innovative solution.
So a T-Code, that's a track circuit operating device, and that's commonly used for workplace protection during track maintenance. So what it does, it actually simulates a train in a section. So you install it between the running rail, and then it turns the signal red, and then it can halt oncoming traffic. So in the current situation, manual T-Codes are commonly used for workplace protection, but we see that there are frequent changes in the instructions, and while it also requires an extensive preparation time, it leads to duplicated work, and most importantly, the installation of these manual T-Codes, they consume significant amount of time and valuable rail infrastructure capacity. So during a standard possession, at least in the Netherlands, that takes 4 hours before you start working. About half an hour is used to protect your work sites by installing these manual T-Codes. And also when you're finished working, then you need to remove the T-Codes manually from the rails. So that means on a possession of 4 hours, 1 hour is actually, I don't like to use the word, but it's actually wasted, because during that hour, no work.
I like it, the word.
Okay, but because no work can be performed and no trains can run. And that's why we have digitalized the T-Codes. And we have developed the ZKL 3000 RC system, a remote-controlled T-Code. You can look at it as a digital track access system. It replaces the traditional manual workplace protection devices. It can be installed semi-permanently between a running rail. You can leave it there for many years. And when remotely activated, by using your mobile phone or an iPad, then it simulates also a train in the chosen section, turning the signal red and halting oncoming traffic. So within seconds, track workers can safely access the track.
But in my simple words, to understand it, today there is the one colleague on construction site, he really putting a manually item at the beginning of the tracks works, or where the access is, to block the railway.
Yeah, or multiple safety officers.
Exactly. So they're going there, so they have to go one time, like maybe up to 1-2 kilometers to go there just to place it. Then they're going back, then they start their construction works. And then again, afterwards, they have to go and remove it. And basically your solution is that you still have like a physical item, but you place it there. But you can activate and deactivate it basically in cloud services as a Y app remotely. Yeah?
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's basically, you don't have to go there. So you will use this new technology basically in construction works with a little bit more permanently, right? So you just place it there and then you can switch it on and off immediately and you can start your work immediately. And from the half hour, what you're told, once it's placed, you can do it in seconds, right?
You can do it in seconds. You can enter the track like a pit stop. And it also means that you get to organize your possessions instantly. And that also allows for more flexibility in the maintenance process, making the maintenance regime more adaptable based on available intervals. So again, it's an important tool to enable a safe work during the day. Because we see that many times you don't need to go to the tracks for a very long time for inspection or for failure repair. Maybe in just 10 minutes, you can do your job and then you can resolve the TCRs.
And basically, you help it in multiple times. First of all, like the capacity is increased for the running trains. And then also you save capacity and human resources. And then, of course, at the end also of money because you're much more faster. And I like it because it's waste of time to walk, to put it there, etc. And they also said like small failures, it just takes sometimes 15 minutes to repair.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy that you need 1.5 hour preparation to do a 50 minutes work if you can do it in seconds and then basically in 20 minutes you're done. That sounds
exactly.
like a big achievement.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important to standardize and digitalize. And also this is a way we see to make the industry more attractive for young talents. Because there are, again, I feel bad to say it, but there are some unfavorable working conditions. Looking in the Netherlands, working on track maintenance, that always means that you get to work during the night, that you get to work during the weekends or during the holidays. But this enables safe work during the day. So many people are retiring in our industry. In the Netherlands, 1 in 4 track workers is going to retire in the next 5 to 8 years. In Germany, the numbers are even more alarming. The European average is that 1 in 3 track workers is going to retire between 8 and 10 years. So on one hand, we need more available rail capacity for rail traffic. But on the other hand, we have less human capacity available to make sure that our network has a high quality. And that's why we need to embrace technology to mitigate the risks.
Absolutely. And there is also another topic like if you do not do a proper maintenance, I think that the first impact of a not proper maintenance is that you have to, or the infrastructure provider has to reduce the speed. So basically, if you don't have sufficient workforce doing the maintenance on the network, that means the result out of that can lead to reduced speed. A reduced speed, we know, kill capacity. And this, again, brings us in the whole topic of construction works and capacity management. And I can just, like, my personal experience was also like a couple of years ago, like even more, 1 decade ago, I just did one stretch where we have some like a little book at the time which showed like the low speed sections in this specific leg, and it was like 8 pages, and 10 years later I did it, and then it was already 48 pages long.
Wow.
And it really shows us like it's a very convenient and cheap way in the first moment to not do maintenance, but at the end of the day you kill capacity, and then you need much more to invest and have a longer period TCR or construction works ongoing to really upgrade the tracks again. So and I think the human factors you mentioned, it's not surprisingly, but you just see like how big our challenge is in Europe really to find experienced workers with special education to do that. So you have also the very social and human resources impact, which defines at the end of the day new processes, which is absolutely a new thing.
That system has been deployed already for many years by rail contractors in the Netherlands, by Network Rail in France, and in Australia. But I think, a part of our vision is also that you must know exactly when track access is needed. So if you need to go to the tracks, then you need to facilitate it in the most efficient, in the fastest and safest way. But you also need to know what is necessary to go to track. And that's why we also develop IoT sensors at places like switches, level crossings, point heatings, the overhead lines, to provide real-time insight into the status of those assets. And this also helps us to predict how long it will take to fix infrastructure failures, so that we can determine the type of failure remotely without having to go to track with no boots in ballast. Because once we know this, then we can determine when this failure can be fixed within the train service schedule. And this also ensures that failure repairs aren't automatically deferred to the night, of allowing more space for freight trains.
And makes sense if you can fix it faster, because on the safety done is much more faster than if much more slots and opportunities to do so, right? Even today.
Yeah.
It also sounds that basically you're the provider of information and for like construction companies. And when we had Larissa in my podcast, she mentioned that one approach to make it better and more efficient is to redesign also the tendering process or the tenders at itself, as they are currently super detailed, which limits the companies from finding new and better ways to do it and embracing the innovation. So what is your experience on this comment?
Well, I think that it's such a pity that because of such contracts, of such bureaucratic details, that we don't get to harness innovations. Because these contracts, they are prepared like many years in advance, but once you start executing the work, then of course there are more efficient tools available in the market, because the industry is innovating very fast. But then unfortunately there aren't any incentives in the current contracts to actually use these newer innovative tools. And that's why I think that, of course, innovation, looking at technology, that's not really the issue. I think it's actually a bigger challenge that we get to innovate in the way we cooperate with each other in the ecosystem to make optimum use of the available technologies. Yeah, it's such a waste again. Yeah.
I love this sentence. Sometimes you have the feeling that we're lacking on innovation and technology, but it's not the case. We don't. It's available. It's there. You can touch it. You can buy it already. But I think that the much bigger step is basically really to adapt the processes, to rethink how we cooperate with companies together to make the best out of it. Yeah. And it was even one crazy fact is, for example, like that in some countries, like in Germany, although we have a lot of construction works, there is no extension of the railway network at itself. So basically, there's 0 kilometers more on rail tracks constructed. So that means that, I mean, there are some removed, some tracks, but also some rebuilt. But I think probably that the most of the whole construction works are just maintenance.
Yeah.
And then there was also the one expert told me just recently that most of these big construction works or maintenance works, for example, for bridges, which are having a life cycle between or heavy maintenance after 18 years, and in the Second World War, more or less all the bridges in Germany were bombed, and so we're exactly there. That 80 years after that, we need to make heavy maintenance on most of the bridges. So it's already planned, but and foreseen for many years, but now it's all, as the one guy said, all at the same time. So what is your take, or what is your opinion about why these construction works are not planned in a better way in the time frame? Why it must be now everything at once?
Yeah, it feels like everything is coming together now, and that's posing such a huge pressure on rail capacity and also on human capacity. So we see that the growth in rail transport, that brings many challenges, because intensive use of rail requires more maintenance and renewal. But looking also at the maintenance needs of Dutch railways, that will rise sharply until the year 2030, because indeed much of the track was built shortly after the Second World War, and the life cycle of track is approximately 40 years, which means that it's now due for replacement again, and so you need to do more work in less time. And I think that's the reason for this, for that so much work is now coming together in such a short period of time, can be found in politics, because it's, as a politician, um, I think it can be more impressive to lobby for new infrastructure, but to maintain the current infrastructure, yeah, you want to have many short-term, like visible benefits of your work, but infrastructure maintenance, that's more a thing for the long term. And I feel so sorry that although we knew it for many years that it was coming, these investments that are needed for this are pushed back so many times. We need to embrace digital technologies to do as much work as possible with the people that we still have in the industry. Because I'm afraid that that's also going to bring another bottleneck to harness the amazing potential of our infrastructure. Because now it is the time to see, to show what we got. Looking at the Green Deal, the Sustainable Smart Mobility Strategy, ETS, I really feel that there is a momentum for rail, but a reliable rail product is the most important thing, because else, we won't be the mode of preference.
A really good point, because on the one hand, you see that now is really like the let's say the mood here that that rail for cargo and passenger is really one mode of transport which is sustainable and pays into the Green Deal. But on the other hand, we're just facing the real challenge is that now everything comes at once, and basically there won't be probably the capacity to really fulfill all the requirements and also the need from the market to get more and more trains on the rail. And this also can lead to frustration, of course, because now everyone is willing to change, and then you say, but I cannot because we don't have capacity yet.
Yeah, everyone is looking at us.
Might see a little exactly, but therefore coming again to innovation, there are opportunities to do it much better, even in this very limited environment what we're having so far. And therefore, the call is just to do more innovation and to embrace it. If you would be the Commissioner of Transport, what would be your headline, your biggest topic?
My biggest topic, my dream, is the establishment of a well-connected single European railway area. Because now, looking at the European infrastructure, it consists out of outdated national systems. It's more of a patchwork instead of a network. This is so important to really harness the potential of our infrastructure to facilitate the desired growth in rail transport. And the single European railway area, the SERA, again, that's really my dream. We can have way more rail traffic, way more cross-border rail traffic, contributing to social cohesion on our continent. And for the single European railway area, I learned from the director for land transport, Christian Schmid, that we need 5 eyes. We need individuals, just like you and me, being passionate about improving rail. We need institutions, we need investments, we need infrastructure, and we need innovations. So those are the 5 eyes that would be the red thread for all my activities as a European Commissioner to establish the single European railway area.
That sounds really great, and like as a big vision. And again, we can hear how passionate about this, because if that's your dream, like really to do it, and that's great. And basically more cross-border means at the same time connecting Europe and to grow together as one union, which is, I think, like a really big, bold vision. I think that's, Marleen, already super nice closing words, because we're always talking about passion. We're talking about bringing railway forward and to really make the mobility for the future. And yeah, we don't have to convince ourselves that railway is a very important part of mobility of tomorrow. But I think with your company and the innovation, but as well as you as a person, like as a rail ambassador, I'm with that passion to bring it to schools, to universities, to other companies to explain how efficient rail is, how sustainable rail is, and what is needed also to change in order to make it happen. Thank you for being a rail ambassador, Marleen, and it was really great having you on the podcast, and greetings to the Netherlands.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sebastian, for having me again. It's been such an honor to be your guest.
And welcome to the RAILUP Club, Marleen.
Yeah, thank you.
What is the contribution to drive climate change?
To improve the efficiency of rail operations. Because if you look at CO2 emissions in Europe, 25% are from transportation. Of that 25%, only 0.4% is from rail traffic, while it transports 8% of all passengers and 17% of all goods. And looking at the goals of the European Commission to decarbonize transportation, the train is vital. So in 2050, the goal is to have zero emissions in transports. And we are never going to achieve that without trains. So I truly believe that the train is the future. It's already very green, and in Europe, you already have an amazing infrastructure for rail. You just need to optimize it and increase capacity. And that's my role in it.
The ball is in your court. What is the next step to drive change?
Okay, yeah, I advocate for the implementation of standards across the European rail system, and also to push for a shift away from a national approach. So we need a model shift to rail, but we also need a mental shift from national to European. So I look at the way we cooperate with different rail actors in Europe, and I want to advocate for the international harmonization in rail management using European standards. Because nowadays, member states aren't always obliged to implement them. There's still the option to just stick to your national way of working, to your national standards and systems. And I want to stop that, because otherwise we'll never have a single well-connected European railway area.
Which superhero do we need to avoid the climate disaster?
Iron Man, of course. Iron is maybe the heart of our rail infrastructure. So we need to see more Iron Man to combat climate change.
What's the takeaway from this episode?
My biggest takeaway from this episode is the important role of rail ambassadors in Europe, who promote the benefits of rail, aim to inspire young people and advocate for more sustainable, green and digital future in rail. We also explored the significant challenges with temporary capacity restrictions, short TCR, and learned about the great potential to organize construction work more efficiently and safely through redesigning processes and the application of new technologies. Marleen highlighted a smart solution from Dual Inventive to significantly reduce the time needed to secure and release tracks from maintenance. And that's just one solution. Marleen also addressed the human resources challenge in the rail industry, as a substantial number of track workers will retire soon. Therefore, a push towards technology is needed to compensate for the loss of human capacity. Additionally, we learned that wrong maintenance can lead to lower speeds and reduced capacity, which is crucial for enabling more trains on the infrastructure. To address the issue of a better planning should be organized on the European level, and that is aligning with Marleen's big vision to create a single European railway network. That's huge, that's green, that's RAILUP.
This podcast connects innovators and leaders worldwide to shape the future ecosystem of rail. Rail Up by Sebastian Sperker.